Well, I am very excited to talk to you because one, you're coming to town. So you are going to be live. It's the Crossing Over with John Edward 2022 tour.
Yep.
And I know you have a whole bunch of dates. I'll see you at the San Francisco show soon. What does it feel like for you to get back out there?
Um, it's exciting to get back out there. I'm a little bit neurotic and nervous. My background comes out of healthcare, so I always talk about in my world of energy, I practice universal precautions from a metaphysical standpoint, and now it's like my worlds are blending. Like I have to
Mm,
practice physical precautions as well as metaphysical precautions with what's going on with the virus. So I want people to be safe. So it's
yeah.
exciting. It's exciting to be back in front of a crowd, um, but it's also kind of like I want people to be safe while they're doing it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just excited. It feels normal having events again. You know, it feels like,
Yes.
oh, I've missed it personally. I love thriving on connection in person. It works for me better that way.
It was kind of interesting when I did 8 events at the end of 2021, and when I kind of like got back into the swing of it, it didn't feel like it stopped. Like
Mm,
it didn't feel like it was like a year and a half had gone by, you
yeah.
know? So it's weird. It's like I feel like we should like reverse age. Like nobody should age for 2 years.
Well,
That's
in
like
a weird way,
pause.
don't you feel like time stopped?
It did. It actually really, really did. And then in another way, it felt like it went by really fast.
Yes.
Like I did so much virtual stuff that I tried to get all my clients to go, okay, guys, I want you to literally mark things in your life by the month because I feel like we're sliding into like date after date after date and like it's Christmas again. Like, wow.
Can you remember? Oh, by the way, I've been so excited to talk to you. I didn't even like announce your name, John Edward, the psychic medium that you're the first person that exposed me to any of this. Um,
Oh,
and so I'm
thank you.
really grateful because I think eventually I would have found it, but it's like there's always one person that makes a difference that kind of opens the door for you. And your show Crossing Over was, I used to watch it all the time.
Oh,
Uh,
thank you.
I used to get made fun of from my family members. And
Me too.
you, what is it like for you now? Do you feel like people are more open-minded?
Yeah, I think sometimes too open-minded. I think
Mm,
the funniest example I can give you was I was doing an event and a woman said to me, I picked her for a question. I said, "What's your question?" She goes, "I don't really have a question." She goes, "I have more of a statement." And I went, "Okay." It's never
oh,
good when somebody says that. Like you brace yourself for what they're going to say. She goes, "You don't really sound like you belong to the psychic community." She goes, "You really sound like you're more of a skeptic." And I completely cracked up laughing, and I was like, that's such a compliment. And I take it as a compliment because I want people to be critical thinkers. I want them to actually think open-minded and I want them to allow the world of energy to happen around them. But I don't want them to become so esoteric that everything's a sign. Like every
mm,
time the lights flicker, it's a message from dad. It's like, sometimes the bulb actually really just it needs to be changed. Like
right.
so I want people to be grounded. So yes, people are definitely more open. I think people are processing information quicker. I mean, give an iPad to the youngest person in the room and they'll teach you how to use it, right? So information is processing faster. And with that, we have to be careful about what are the stop gaps that we're putting in where we could kind of go, okay, hold on, like we need to be grounded with this. So that's kind of what my role is now. I feel like I opened the door, I built the bridge, and now I'm trying to get people to be like, whoa, 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 let's take a pause.
Yeah. You know what though? I love that you would use the word grounding because as we advance technologically, and I was already bad at tech,
Hmm.
I find myself wanting to run away and just hide in a yurt somewhere. So it's like the 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 need to remember who we are in our core and to be able to connect with everything without the stuff, I think is so important. And we forget that these days.
I agree. Sandy, I think that we are living in a society where, again, information, technology, news, everything is a feed, right?
Mm,
So think about information being fed to you constantly. Well, if that was really food, you would get sick. You
mhm.
would actually get sick with the amount of information,
Intake.
food that's coming
Yeah.
at you. And I think as a society, we have gotten sick in every aspect of our lives, whether it's my world, politics, religion, virus, Facebook for family, I mean, the level of polarity and divisive topics that we can have. And I was just talking to my son who's gone into healthcare, he's working in healthcare, and how everybody has their own expertise
Mm,
in every area and every arena. So it's like it used to be like you were an expert in your field. Well, I no longer sometimes feel like I'm an expert in my field after 4 decades of doing this, because anybody who, reads a book, has a blog, is now a quote unquote medium. And if you turn on TikTok, you can see what I mean. Like everybody's a psychic medium on TikTok. And I'm like, most of the people when they come up, I literally hit not interested. I'm like, not interested, not interested. And people are like, did you see this person? I'm like, nope. I said, because I keep hitting not interested, because there's not a lot that I'm interested in that I would actually want to watch. So
I love that, but you have to protect your own self, in your own energy field. And I guess there's a fine line between like learning and being open-minded, and also just, you don't need to know everything all the time. It never ends. You'll never have that personal space or time if you just allow yourself to keep consuming.
I love when people say stuff like, oh, I was traveling and I forgot my charger and my phone died. And it was kind of nice.
Everybody says that, right? It's
Yep.
like an
It's like,
escape.
yep, you gave yourself permission. So I tell people all the time that creating boundaries in the world of energy is really important. And then carrying those boundaries into the physical world. And again, I go back to healthcare. My background comes out of healthcare. I worked in hospitals, and my degree is in healthcare and public administration. I was clinically involved working in a laboratory for a number of years. And then I switched into this world. But I never quite let go of my healthcare mentality, because that's what you're trained in.
Yeah.
So my worlds kind of bleed back and forth. And I feel like we now have to take those energetic boundaries that I teach people about psychic self-defense, and we have to put them in the real world. And I tell people, you have a car alarm, right? You go click, click, you put the security on your car, and then you go beep, 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 and you put your house alarm on. But what about your own actual energetic alarm? How do you protect your security system? And that means that you have to be careful that you don't have to jump into every conversation. You don't have to have an opinion heard on everything that somebody's saying. And I think one of the greatest things that we can say to someone is, oh, that's interesting. And then what that translates to is that that person feels that they've been validated and heard. And you don't have to get into a debate or an argument. You could just, oh, that's interesting, move on.
Yeah.
And not have to like sacrifice a portion of your soul to whatever that topic is. The latest whatever, or the TV show that you don't like, or whatever that might be.
Well, because nowadays it's like you're not allowed to disagree. And
Right.
that's exhausting.
Yep. It is exhausting. And when somebody comes onto it comes into a virtual group or something that I'm doing online, and they'll say, well, for me, I actually feel this. And I just go, okay. And then they want me to to expound upon what
Elaborate.
I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I said, for me, it doesn't work like that. Next.
Yeah. One of my friends, she's a medium and she loves you. Her name's Mariah. And I told her I was going to be talking to you. And I really love what she said. She said, I love him. He's incredibly ethical.
Oh, that's the best compliment, Teller. Thank you.
Yeah. So what does that mean to you to hear that? Because for me, I'm on the other side. I'm a consumer. I'm a fan. I'm a curious person of the other side. But is there a lot of instances where you see unethical practices in your field?
Unfortunately, with the advent of technology, yes. But way back when there was Miss Cleo and the 1-800 dial a psychic. Remember, call me now, right?
Yes.
And back then I would say to people, do you think that all these talented people with all these abilities are just that available for you at 2 o'clock in the morning? Now, come on, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Now, I do go live on TikTok because I know that it's hard to get into my space. I know it's hard to get into a group, or it's hard to do a private. So I do want to teach and raise awareness. So I'll go live on Instagram. I'll go live on Facebook. I'll go live on TikTok to actually demonstrate the ethics and responsibility that should go into it. So for her to say that she finds me ethical, that to me is like high praise. Like for me, that feels like that's the best compliment you can give me. As opposed to when somebody comes to a group and at the end they go, oh my God, this was so entertaining.
Oh,
That's not a compliment. Like when somebody goes, oh, this was entertaining. I'm like, I'm happy that you found it enjoyable, empowering, educational, inspiring, enlightening. I'll take all those.
Yeah. How do you want people to feel when they come to maybe like your tour coming up? So I'm going to be at the San Francisco show. Obviously it's a big group of people. And I don't know what it's like for you to have all that energy at once you can't read everyone.
No. So for me, the goal is to leave people better than I find them. And I do that by actually teaching. So the readings that happen, the questions that are asked and answered, all of those create the process for that event. And I could do 5 events in San Francisco, like one a night, and have 5 legitimately different experiences.
Mhm.
The framework will be the same, which is my intention, which is to leave people better than I found them, to raise awareness, let them know that life and love are eternal. There's a survival of consciousness. And then the demonstration of that is who comes through. But the personalities are always different. The
Yeah.
people that are receiving the information is different. And you'll see when you're at the event, there'll be some readings that are very detailed and specific because the personalities coming through are that good at communicating. And then some people are more personality wise, they're shyer and they're quieter. Or the people that are receiving it, they don't want to hear from that person. They want to hear from
Oh.
somebody else. So they kind of play a game of energetic tennis, which I don't really allow too much. I had somebody that was on my waiting list for a while, and this actually just happened not too long ago, where I said, I've got such and such person coming in, and I said, this person passed by suicide. And before I can get the next statement out, the client said to me, yeah, well, I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in him. And that
What
was
do
my
you do with
reaction. Said,
that? What do you do with
well,
that?
well, I thankfully I wasn't on Zoom, so he couldn't see my expression. Um, but I literally had this moment of like I was exasperated by it, and then
Yeah.
I just said I couldn't get past it. So I said, I am so sorry. I'm not going to be able to read for you.
Mm.
And they said, well, why not? And my New York sarcasm kicked in. I go, because I'm not interested in reading for you now.
Oh, I love it.
And it was the truth.
Yeah.
So I have a hard time when the subject matter gets disrespected.
Do people get
So
frustrated because they have a vision of what they think will happen? They have certain people they want to connect with, and it's up to you never know who's going to come through or if they come through.
yeah, I tell people all the time, I'm not a DJ. I can't take requests. I can't make something happen.
Yeah.
Like whatever is going to happen. And there's a process for me. Like I have to meditate. I have to open myself up. I have to get ready. Like, it doesn't just happen. And that's the part of what I tell people. Like, it's not like I'm walking around my life everywhere. And I'm like getting this. You have
Yeah.
to choose to do this. It's like a singer has to choose to open up and sing. They don't just sing. Singing just doesn't just happen, right?
Yeah.
So there's no such thing as a medium just gets it. It's that medium has to allow themselves to be open to get it.
Is it
So
true
I
what you
think
said that you can, because I would consider this a gift, but you consider it an ability?
I do actually. I think the gift is the connection and the communication. The communication process of which I'm a part of,
Mhm.
that's the gift. But I feel like the client is 1/3, I'm 1/3, and the people coming through are 1/3. So we all kind of bring together um, this trinity of energy, and that is the gift. The connection is the gift.
What do you do with like, have you ever had a spirit like hang out and not leave? Like, do they ever, is that like a fine line? Like, how do you set your boundaries?
So not so much now because now I'm stronger at my boundaries, but when I was younger, I had a few moments like that where people lingered or I didn't have my protection up as much.
Mhm.
So I did have some outliers. I've had it happen the opposite where before I'm going to do an event or before I'm going to do a night of readings, somebody will come in and I don't know where to put them. So like I don't like when that happens either. Like I had one, again, this is a few years back, but I had a night. It was like I've started to read at 6, and at 5:20, I very clearly got the name Nathan in my head. So I walked out to my assistant and I said, Joanne, do you have a Nathan connected to you? And she went, no. I'm like, that's so weird. I'm like, I'm giving the name Nathan. Now I had 5 clients that night. So for the first 4 clients, every one of them, I asked, did you guys have a Nathan? And everybody, they were all like, no, we don't have a Nathan. So now the 5th client comes, and before she even walked into the office, I was like, I just need to know who Nathan is and why at 5:20 he was in my office. And she literally stopped and went, oh my God. And I went, your family? And she went, no. She goes, but at 5:20, when I was leaving my office to go home to get ready to come here tonight, one of my coworkers was like taunting and teasing me for wasting my time, energy, and money on somebody that she thought was a fraud, and said, but if you hear from my dad, his name is Nathan, and tell him I love him. Yeah.
Oh, that just got
So
chills. Wow.
so that was like a cool moment. But
Yeah.
but at the moment it wasn't cool. So for 4.5 hours before that, I was like, who the hell's Nathan?
Yeah.
Right. So I don't like that. Then I had another event where I was in Akron, Ohio, and on the way to Akron, Ohio, flying, excuse me, flying there, um, on the plane, I heard Padre Pio. And I'm like, Padre Pio. So I'm sitting next to this woman. She's reading a book, right? So I kind of do the like I leaned back and like looked over at her book kind of a thing. And she was actually reading a Christian book. So I thought maybe she was reading about Padre Pio. And it was in her energy. So I immediately powered myself like down, like I don't want to be picking up on her stuff. Get off the plane, nothing. Go to my hotel room. I'm by myself now. I see it again, Padre Pio. I'm like, Padre Pio. So I call a friend of mine who's a priest and I said, hey, anything going on with Padre Pio around you? And he goes, nope. And I was like, okay. So that night I go to my event, I walk on stage. I will never forget this. There was 3,400 people at this event. It was a lot of people. So I said, I don't normally do this, but I'm going to start my night off with something I think is important. And I think it's going to get me to come to you. Padre Pio. Somebody's a very strong connection to Padre Pio. Now, statistically, you would have thought somebody would have acknowledged that. Not one person.
Out of
Not one person
3,400.
out of 3,400 people. Not a hand, nothing. And I remember standing there going like, okay, this was a mistake. Like these people are probably like, this guy can't do this, right? And then I literally just put it out there and I went on with the rest of my event. 2 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail from a couple. It was a woman who had her husband drive, I think, 3 or 4 hours to get to the event. And she told her husband, listen, I appreciate the fact that you're bringing me here. I don't need a reading. I know that my dad is with me. I've already had a conversation with my dad that somewhere during the event, John Edward has to use the name Padre Pio, and that's going to be a wink to me to know that he's with me. That's how I started the event.
Oh my
She goes,
God.
my husband and I sat there for like 3 hours, however long the event was. She goes, and we were just like dumbfounded. She goes, I don't even know what happened at the event. She goes, the two of us were in complete shock. And all I could think of is like, oh my God, she missed her moment. Like if she would have just
Oh,
raised her hand,
was she
her,
too much in shock?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
she was like completely like flabbergasted.
it's like a puzzle like
It
when
is
this
like a puzzle.
happens, right?
Yeah, it is like a puzzle. It's like I tell people if you ever play Pictionary, like I used to love Pictionary. And some people would equate it to charades, but like when you play Pictionary with somebody and they're drawing the thing and they're
Yeah,
trying to get you to say whatever it is, and then you don't get it, and then they tell you and you look at what they were drawing and you were like, why would you draw that? Like, why wouldn't you draw this? You know? But you're coming from that person's perspective or that
right.
person's frame of reference. So that's what it feels like for me sometimes. Like they'll show me something and I'll be like, I have no idea what this is, but here you go, you know.
What do you do after your events, like for coming down from it? Do you like just like for me, I'll go to the hotel, I'm gonna watch TV, I'm gonna zone out. Like, do you?
Food, food is
Okay,
my thing. Yeah, food is a thing for me. So I don't like to eat before I do anything energy wise. So
okay,
I kind of like keep myself clear because I want all my energy to go towards like reading or whatever that is happening. As soon as that is over, my reward is food. So
yeah,
whether that be like, depending upon what time it is, a burger, a steak, something that's grounding food.
yeah,
Um, sometimes it's just ice cream,
yeah.
something that's like cookies. I love, love, love,
There.
love chocolate chip cookies. So sometimes after like a group, like my wife would be like, is it a 3 cookie night or a 4 cookie night? I'm like, it's a
By the
six
way,
cookie night.
that is love. That's a love language. Is when your partner can speak to you through food.
Yep. Yep. Like I love Otis Spunkmeyer chocolate chip cookies. If you guys have ever had like if it is the best chocolate chip cookie for me. Like I know there's like crazy recipes out there. Just go on Amazon, buy them. Like you can get them frozen, throw them in your freezer, and pop them in the oven. 325, 9 minutes, perfection, and they're delicious.
Oh my God, now I want one.
You will totally thank me, Sandy. I promise you. Otis Spunkmeyer chocolate. They're like the cookies that they use like for like fundraisers and charity events. And I've like eaten them since I'm a kid. I love them. They're my favorite cookie. You can keep all the famous ones. Like legitimately, 325, 9 minutes.
At the
It's
end of the day,
delicious.
you're a simple man.
I am simple. I'm very simple.
You
Very,
just
very
want to
simple.
help people connect with their loved ones, understand
And
a
eat
little more of themselves, and have cookies.
and have cookies, right? Cookies. I don't do alcohol. I'm not a drug person. I don't smoke. Give me a cookie.
Yeah. Or six, whatever
Or
works.
six. Yeah. Yeah. Is it a 3 cookie night? No, it's a six
It's a
cookie night.
six. It's a six. By the way, quick shout out to your daughter. I saw your video you reposted of her singing Adele. Your daughter,
Yeah.
Olivia, is very talented.
Thank you. My daughter Olivia is an amazing human. She's an absolute doll. She's been on a TV show called Better Things for the last 5 years, and they just wrapped up their fifth and final season, so that people will see that in 2022. So, folks got a chance to watch Duke grow up on that show, and she's had an
Oh,
amazing, amazing journey because as a child actress, she didn't grow up on like a child show. She grew up
mhm.
on a real show, like not that
An
those shows aren't
adult
real,
show.
but like an adult mature show. And she's gotten the opportunity to watch a pretty powerhouse actress, director, producer, Pamela Adlon, taking her under her wing. So it's been an amazing opportunity for her to watch. Yeah, so I've actually said to her, I said, listen, you need to kind of like up your social media game. I was like, you have like no social media presence. I'm like, so I sent her, she was in the UK filming. So I sent her the Adele song. I go, everybody on TikTok is like, singing this. I go, why don't you go record yourself with this musical person? This guy like wrote he played the piano.
Mhm.
So I expected she would just sing along with that. But no, in true Olivia fashion, she put on a shower concert. So it's
No,
become her
the,
thing
the
now.
acoustics were great. Her
Yep.
vocals are amazing. I was like, whoa, she's really good.
Oh, thank you.
Like a
She
legit.
she did she literally went and did Defying Gravity. That's the next one that she put out.
Oh, did you join TikTok first or her?
I did. I joined TikTok first. My kids told me not to. They told me that it would be cringe. And I said, I'm like, no, I said, I'm feeling like TikTok is gonna explode. And they were like, no, it was an app called Musically or Lyrically or something first. And she was like, don't go on there. You're too old. It was like that type of thing.
Right.
But I found myself during the pandemic, I was pulled to it. It was mindless and fun, and the
Mm.
pranks and the dogs and the humor and the food, right? So I went on there first, and
That's
then
why I love when people have a social media account. It doesn't matter whatever it is, but you just get to learn more about who they are just as a person rather than what they do for a living, even though like I'm super fascinated with everything you do. But I love knowing these little moments. Like you're on TikTok and you think it's fun watching the dancing videos and you love
I
cookies.
do.
Yeah.
And yeah, and seriously, like I've got more downloaded chicken recipes on my phone than anything. Like I'm like, oh, that's a good one. I'm like, oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, or like food really binds us, right? So we're coming into out of the holiday seasons, and one of the things that I really appreciate is reminiscing over food and
Mhm.
tradition. And there's an account on TikTok. I think it's called Franny Loves Food, and she comes from an Italian background. I'm half Italian, right? So I grew up in my grandmother's Italian kitchen, and she's been gone for a long time, and some of those traditions are gone. So to watch the videos of her making something and calling it what my grandmother used to call it, it immediately takes me back. So
Yeah.
it puts me into the kitchen again. So it's nostalgic.
Yeah. And in a way, even though I bash social media sometimes because it's exhausting, you also see moments like that where you're like, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one who sees this, feels this, or thinks about this
Correct.
still. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not many people are going to talk about strufala on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know Nobody's talking about how you have to make it or what you do, or pastina,
Yeah.
comfort food, but people do it and they share those traditions and they share their recipes, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, is your TikTok just John Edward?
It is all my social media is the same. It's at psychic medium JE.
Got
So
it.
it's at psychic medium and then just JE.
And now to purchase tickets for your upcoming tour, would that also be on your website?
Yes, they
Okay.
can go to johnedward.net. So there's no S on Edward. People
Hmm.
always want to say John Edwards. So
Hmm.
I go S for Senator, John Edward, D for dead guy. So johnedward.net.
That's very smart, very smart. And I will see you on the 14th, which is in San
Yes.
Francisco. I know you're all over though. You're San Jose, Anaheim, Burbank, a bunch of different locations. So,
Yes, I'll be in California for most of January. So I'm looking forward to being there with the nice weather.
oh, well, thank you for taking the time. I hope you get 6 cookies later tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank